address some concerns that some of you have been having about the way we're doing special moves, and that is these mics. You don't like the way we're holding these mics.
Well, no, they just say that it looks awkward. How else do you hold a mic? Look, if I hold it like this, it looks unnatural.
I'll tell you this, it doesn't feel awkward.
It feels right.
It feels great.
It does, yeah.
On with the show! Coming up on the show this week, we're taking a look at the lineup of games that have been announced for the PlayStation 1 Classic.
I'll be having a look at Hello Games' latest and greatest update for No Man's Sky, The Abyss, which is all about the sea of the planets in No Man's Sky.
Excellently done. Also, Liam's done a bit of voiceover about something old and Japanese. But first, PS Classic. Earlier this year, Sony announced the breathtakingly original PlayStation Classic, a mini version of the classic PS1 from the before times, preloaded with 20 games. What an idea! Anyway, this week Sony revealed what the full lineup of games would be for the system, having previously only revealed 5 games. We already knew that Final Fantasy VII, Jumping Flash, Ridge Racer Type 4, Tekken 3 and Wild Arms were on there, but we now know the full list also includes, in alphabetical order, Battle Arena Toshinden, that's a game about chopping others with weapons. There's also Cool Borders 2, Destruction Derby, the original Grand Theft Auto and Intelligent Cube. Many will likely be pleased and relieved to see that Metal Gear Solid is on there as well, a game Jake and Liam both place in their top 1 games of all time. There's also Mr. Driller, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, Rayman, Resident Evil Director's Cut, and Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Finishing off the collection is Stealth Shooting Thing, Siphon Filter, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, Twisted Metal, and Wild Arms. Now, there's undoubtedly some real classics in there, Grand Theft Auto, Persona, Rainbow Six, Resident Evil, and Metal Gear Solid being just some of the games that went on to become some of the biggest names in gaming to this day. But there are some very notable exceptions, and with a lineup of just 20 games, I guess there was always going to be. Where is Crash Bandicoot? Where's Wipeout? Spyro the Dragon? Tony Hawk is nowhere to be seen. There's undoubtedly very good reasons for all those omissions, but still it's hard to ignore. The PlayStation Classic is around 45% smaller than the original system from 1994. It includes 2 full-size, albeit non-analog stick controllers, and of course includes modern connections, including a HDMI cable. The mini system costs about 90 quid in the UK and $100 in the US, and releases on December the 3rd. Alright, so what was your reaction to when you saw the lineup of games?
Right, I only had one reaction, and there was a fighting game on there that wasn't Tekken, Battle Arena or whatever.
Indeed.
I remember playing it loads as a kid, but I forgot all about it until I saw that man in that purple, whatever they call it. What's the name for a karate outfit? One of them. And he had the stick and green hair, and I was like, oh my god, I remember that. Other than that, not much of a reaction.
I was trying to think then off the top of my head, and I feel like I know what it is. It's a gi.
It is,
I was going to say toga.
I remember.
It's not that though, is it?
Duke Nukem wore a toga in Time to Kill at one point.
Great fact. Also, Metal Gear Solid 1, that's the number 1, isn't it? That's the system seller. If they didn't have that on there, it looks like an incredibly weak lineup, I think.
Apart from Final Fantasy VII.
Apart from Final Fantasy VII. However, there's a lot of Final Fantasy VII in people's lives at the moment. You can play that on basically anything. It's coming to the Switch next year.
It is, yeah.
It's everywhere, man. You can get it on an iPad. Not the same for Metal Gear Solid 1. That is a bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's quite well sought after. We always talk about it, and we've mentioned it in loads of podcasts before and stuff. And whenever they do HD collections, they always leave it out, right?
Yeah. So
Weird.
Metal Gear Solid 1 is the big one, I think. Obviously, some huge notable exceptions. I think PlayStation 1 was a big childhood console for an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a lot of games that didn't make the cut. Some of them for obvious reasons. Spyro the Dragon. I mean, the Spyro trilogy is coming out remastered, and it looks really nice, and that's coming out
made from the ground up in
very
2
soon.
weeks.
Yeah, it's very soon, and anyway, that's an Activision title, so so it's obviously licenses and things like that. It's very difficult to
Crash Bandicoot's probably
together.
the same.
Yeah, and exactly again, Activision, and I've kind of noticed people online making the point actually though that isn't the consumer's problem. It doesn't matter what the problem is. The consumer just wants a good product, and if you're trying to give them something that should have these games and it doesn't, it's basically, it's not. Yeah. And I kind of do get that argument a lot as well. It's not. It doesn't matter why it's not on there. The fact is, it's not on there, so it's not, just make that you don't give it points because of like, oh well, fair play, they didn't have the license or whatever. You just go, well, that game's not on there, so I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's just the real world, though, isn't it? If they can't get the game, they can't get the game. So they get as much points as they can. Because you know what I mean?
It's a lot of money, I think. That's the main obstacle.
Yeah,
it's quite expensive. It's more expensive than the Nintendo ones.
Yeah. What's weird about this one compared to like Nintendo ones is that a lot of the games, you can emulate them, or you can. Like I have like a PS TV, that like little small looking thing, and you can get a lot of older games. Like you can get basically the Vita library on there, and they've got a lot of PS1 stuff on there. I played Metal Gear Solid 1 on there, so it's like. You can play them elsewhere, like you were saying, especially like third-party titles. They're everywhere now, and they don't seem as. I know you could emulate the SNES games and stuff like that, but I don't know. It just feels like that's the closest and most convenient way of getting them. Whereas these, I don't know, they seem like some of them are almost like a bit niche over here in the West.
Yeah,
some of the games.
Yeah, well, some of them I'll be honest, I haven't heard of.
Yeah, so, Liam will obviously heard of all of them.
Well, of course.
I was like, I don't even know what Wild Arms was. That's lost me some points.
Oh no, I played Wild Arms.
Nah, Chicken Run. That's what I was playing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, we did a list. We did a list video.
We did, yeah.
Basically, that's what it was, saying what we had some ideas for games, and I don't think any of them are on there. I think Liam picked Dino Crisis 2 and
not happening.
There's all these picks that we had basically aren't on there. So
we knew that.
We knew that, and it's only 20 games, which isn't a huge.
And they're
amount.
never adding more. No. They should have had a memory card peripheral that you could buy later on down the line with another 20 in there.
There's
a little bit of tat, like have a little
in boardrooms,
a memory card slot.
We're wasting all this,
and then you get a little memory card thing. You can buy it next Christmas for another 60 quid, but it's got another 20 games on there. Boom, fantastic, that isn't it?
Great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Cool. Do you want to talk about
give us a call.
modern game?
Yes, No Man's Sky.
Yeah, well, maybe not so modern, depending on how long you've been playing it for. But they're constantly updating it. Let's talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
No Man's Sky. Yeah, that one. Came out 2 years ago on the PS4 and the PC to, well, you know what happened, don't you? After all that went down, developers Hello Games re-emerged and released a free update known as the Foundation Update. It added the ability for the player to set a home planet, build a base and teleport from solar system to solar system. There's a lot changed and there was quite a lot of stuff to add for free. They promised a lot more would come in the future. And did they hold up to that? Yeah, 2 years later, and we've got an almost entirely different game. After the launch of No Man's Sky Next on the PS4, PC and Xbox One, fans really started realising just how much effort has been put into this game years after release. And this week, it happened all over again with The Abyss, which focuses solely on the oceans of these 15 quintillion planets. There's underwater base building now, deeper, more varied and just generally better oceans. 5 times more variety in creatures who act completely differently now, predators and prey moving around in shoals and stuff like that, loads of new types of seaweed, seabeds can yield great rewards like pearls, there's buried treasure, sunken ships and freighters, materials, basically everything you'd have hoped for in a video game ocean set on a foreign planet. Oh, what, submarines? Yeah mate, it's got them in it as well, the Nautilon. This bit of diving tech helps you traverse the sea in peace, and you can go hunting in it, gathering, and you can even go mining in it. You can customise your vehicles now as well, so you can really stand out. It's got a real Subnautica vibe, and I'm sure anyone who's played that will know exactly what to expect from this. Whatever your thoughts are on No Man's Sky, the updates keep coming and the game keeps improving. Things are being added, and the idea of a planet's ocean now being as interesting and detailed as a planet's surface is one that new and old fans of the game will surely enjoy. The end of the trailer for The Abyss, as usual, reminds you that this free update is just another step in a long journey, and as someone who wants to see where this game finally ends up, it's really interesting. So if you're up for a bit of treasure hunting, alien fishing, or even just a big fat swim, The Abyss is available right now for free if you own the base game. Right.
So you played a little bit of this, haven't you?
Yeah, so I had to take myself off Red Dead, and I thought I'd do it for everybody. I also hate the ocean in games. It scares me a lot, so I've talked about this before.
Why did you put yourself through it then?
Because no one else would, and I needed someone to talk about it.
I wanted to play Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, exactly. Liam's been playing Japanese old games, so someone needed to do it.
I'm as big an advocate of No Man's Sky as you'll find, but even I was like, didn't even think about it. I was like, well, I've got to play Red Dead Redemption in it.
So that was the fruit of my labour. So yeah, there's lots of stuff in there.
Is that any good? Would you?
Well, I mean, yeah, the oceans were for me, pretty lackluster compared to the
Right.
rest of it now, because they've updated the biomes and different minerals and
Yeah.
plants and all that, but the ocean kind of stayed the same. They didn't even have the basic ability of being able to like use your jetpack as a forward propelling thruster, or even swim on the surface.
So have they added like technology that you can use? Is there some?
Yeah, there's like a submarine called the Nautilon, and
That is cool.
And you can use it to go deeper and stuff, because you run out of obviously, you've got your different like temperatures and stuff,
Yeah.
but you run out of oxygen fairly quickly and stuff like that. You can get upgrades for your suit to survive for longer and shit like that. But your Nautilon's pretty useful.
One thing that I want to know right about this is
Okay.
in the real world, on planet Earth, if you go in the ocean, it's a vast expanse of water, and you
Yeah.
can't see the floor, you can't see any rock. It's just water,
Yeah.
and the surface is above you. Have you experienced that after this?
Depth, I have, but it's kind of been like in a very funnel shape. So if I swim out to the deepest part, I can't see below
Like
me.
a trench.
Yeah, but there's a whole planet that in my solar system that is ocean pretty much, and there's deep parts of that where you can barely see stuff on the sides.
That is great. That's good.
They've really added a lot to that, so there's still a lot of depth to it. And obviously there's like underwater cavernous things, and there's underwater like freighters and stuff, crash ships.
That's good.
Because
they had ruins. They definitely had ruins and stuff. Because I found a couple of them, and it was really like a great moment. Like, holy shit! It's like
I can't tell if that was a problem with the spawning though, and they were just supposed to spawn on land because they were the same. But now there's waterlogged ones that are specifically made for water, where they've got like seaweed and all that on it.
It's a fair point where you raised that, because it did give the impression sometimes that this was just like the rest of the planet, but with water on it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Now it's very much like you've got like fish that move around in shoals, algae growing, and stuff that you can only find underwater. So it feels like just a lot more like how you'd imagine it now, and it's great because obviously most of this planet is water, right? Is that right? Most of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then
Science.
Yeah. I forgot if it was Earth or the human body, whatever's most water. But it's actually both.
It's actually both.
Yeah. Everyone's a winner, baby. So in No Man's Sky, you can get planets that are pretty much all water now, and before that was a bit crap because the water wasn't really.
Well, it was pretty rare, I thought. I didn't really experience that much of that.
And now it's full of cool stuff. So and scary creatures as well, may I say.
No Man's Sky, better game now, better water as well. So that's good. Here's Liam with something old and Japanese.
Last week, everyone was understandably caught up in the hype of Red Dead Redemption 2, but October 26th also happened to be the release date for Castlevania Requiem, a 2-game collection released exclusively for the PS4. And I've been playing this collection quite a bit, so here's a quick rundown of what you can expect from Castlevania Requiem. Developed and published by Konami, the Requiem collection is made up of 2 classic Castlevania games, 1993's Rondo of Blood and 1997's Symphony of the Night. And while the games themselves are absolute classics, the collection itself is pretty bare bones, and you won't find much in the way of extras or enhancements apart from the addition of PlayStation trophies and a handy little quick save system. There is an options menu which lets you choose between a stretched full screen or the game's original 4:3 picture size. There's also on-off toggles for scan lines and interlacing if you fancy a more retro look, and there's an optional smoothing filter if you're not a fan of the pixelated look. Personally, I left all of these filters off because in all honesty, they didn't look very good, and they kind of ruined the game's excellent pixel art. Another thing worth mentioning is that both games run with borders around them, and players can choose from 6 different border styles or turn them off completely. As for sound options, Requiem lets players choose between English or Japanese voices, and some of the game's sound effects play through the PS4 controller's built-in speaker. So what about bonus extras? Well, sadly there isn't any. Requiem doesn't have anything like art galleries or developer interviews, so if you're a fan of special features, you're likely going to be disappointed. But what about the games? How do they hold up? Well, I'm glad to say they hold up quite nicely. Rondo of Blood, which originally released in 1993 for the PC Engine, is a side-scrolling action platformer in which players control Richter Belmont on a journey to defeat Dracula once and for all. Rondo of Blood features 8 unique stages with 4 alternative routes to discover and a boss at the end of each stage for players to defeat. Players can also unlock Maria Renard as a secondary playable character who is more agile than Richter and uses animals in battle instead of the traditional whip. Overall, I would say Rondo of Blood is well worth playing if you're looking for an old school action platformer, but newcomers might be put off by the high difficulty curve. So let's move on to the other game in the collection. Symphony of the Night originally released for the PS1 in 1997, and it brought a huge gameplay shift to the Castlevania series. Instead of being a linear action platformer like previous Castlevania games, Symphony of the Night is an action RPG with an emphasis on Metroid-style exploration. Story-wise, the game takes place 4 years after Rondo of Blood, and this time around, players control Alucard, the son of Dracula, who intends to destroy Dracula's castle and defeat Richter Belmont, who is claiming to be the lord of the castle. However, it is worth saying that the version of Symphony of the Night included in the Requiem collection might not be the exact same game some fans remember from the PS1. This version of Symphony of the Night is based off the PSP port, which was included in the PSP game Castlevania The Dracula X Chronicles, which itself was a 2.5D remake of Rondo of Blood. The PSP port of Symphony of the Night featured a new voiceover dub and used completely different voice actors for the characters, along with an updated script. This meant that fan favourite lines like Dracula's "What is a man" were changed, and fans of the original were left somewhat disappointed. In addition to the updated voiceover, this version of Symphony of the Night included extra content from the Sega Saturn port of the game and a few little extra features. But I do have to say this version of the game holds up very well, and I'd say it plays just as well today as it did back on the PS1. So in conclusion, I'd have to say the Castlevania Requiem collection is a decent offering, and while it doesn't add much in the way of extras or enhancements, it's a nice way to enjoy 2 classic games on a modern platform. So there you go folks, a quick rundown of the Castlevania Requiem collection, which is out now on PS4 and costs £16 in the UK and $20 in the US. I've been Liam, see you next time.
Okay, so I also got this game. Red Dead Redemption's great, sure, but I've been playing loads of different games, and I got this, and I didn't play Rondo of Blood, which Liam finished over the weekend or whatever, but it's just Symphony of the Night. There's some problems with it, I guess, like...
One of the greatest games of all time, to many.
Oh yeah, like you can play it, and it's aged very, very well.
Yeah.
It's just kind of annoying that they've not done widescreen. I'm pretty sure, like on the Xbox 360 arcade, they had a Castlevania, and it was in widescreen.
I think you might be right.
No.
Yeah.
This is like not even widescreen.
Yeah.
It's basically a very bare bones port.
Yeah.
And I don't even have the bad translations in either. But it's cool. I only did like the first boss, like in the alchemy lab and stuff. If you already know. You know what I'm on about.
Hugely influential title. Loads of. That's probably one of the reasons why it's aged so well, is because it's come back as various other games.
Yeah, you'll recognise the gameplay
Metroidvania.
loop. Like, do you know what I mean? The thing that you like about Dead Cells is in this. The thing that you like about Hollow Knight is in this.
Yeah.
Apart from you can change some minor graphical things, but if you want to play it kind of how it was, this is it. Apart from the voice acting, which I've changed to make it like a little bit better because it was quite shit English. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Quite broken. Like I think Dracula calls you like a miserable
poorly
pile
delivered.
of secrets or something like that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they've changed
feel
it
that
now,
guy.
which is taking a bit of charm out of it. But other than that, Castlevania, Liam liked it, and that's all that matters, really, isn't it?
So that's us for this week. I hope
Yeah.
you enjoyed the show. I guess we hope you enjoyed the show. I don't want to speak for Jake.
No, that's a
Certainly
safe
I
assumption.
hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks very much.
We'll see you again very soon for some more Special Moves action. Bye.
Probably next week, isn't it?
Yeah, well, like in a couple of days when the podcast comes out.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Bye.